Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place.
Hi.
Hey.
Let's talk about projection, and let's talk about projection in love, particularly.
I think that's a great idea. I love talking about projection in love. It's maybe it's the only way. it's the only way I know to fall in love, at least from personal experience.
All right.
That
Yeah.
experience, anyways, that thing we call
That
falling
thing,
in love.
Sure, the goo goo gaga, the stars in the eyes kind of new relationship energy.
Yeah, or limerence. Yeah,
Or limerence,
that experience of falling off the edge of something,
Yep.
Or falling into someone, or
Feeling consumed, or
I mean, there's also, projection's bigger than just that. It happens in long-term relationships.
Sure, yeah.
It happens in all our relationships. It's a totally normal psychological process.
Well, in that case,
it also fucks us up real good. So.
Ooh, it really can, but it's important. It's an important thing. Like, we don't want to get rid of it exactly. Just want to know about it.
Yeah, it's a normal psychological process. It is not a conscious process.
Mm-hmm.
The term projection, the unfortunate part about how at least the English use of this word is it sounds like something I'm doing. And we often will use that phrase as if like she's projecting, they're projecting.
Right. It becomes a very like volitional sounding thing.
Right.
Like, I am doing a thing. I'm taking an action.
But it's an unconscious process.
Yeah.
It's an unconscious process that we have. I mean, I would call it an evolved process. It is something that exists in us so that we can see the self that we cannot yet accept, so that we can see the aspects of us that we cannot integrate. We don't understand. I project this unconsciously out there because it makes it possible for me to come into contact with inner contents that are currently undigestible for me.
I've certainly been there. Things that I didn't want to acknowledge about myself. So I put those out on other people, and now I can see them out with somebody that I have a different relationship with than I do with myself. Like, I don't want to carry that around. That's uncomfortable. So how about if you hold this for a while, and I will, I don't know, be mad at you.
But again, it sounds volitional at that point.
Yeah, and that is,
I mean, it can be. So you can be in the awareness, in the self-awareness process, and be like, so I'm aware of my own narcissism. And, I'm aware of the trait. I don't mean clinical, like diagnosable narcissism. I am aware of my narcissistic traits. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of my own self-obsession, my self-centeredness. I'm aware of it. And as I'm in that process, I may become aware of the fact that sometimes I'm seeing a lot of other people in my life they seem very self-obsessed, and they seem very consumed. And so I might be in the middle ground, in the gray zone, where I'm starting to have self-awareness. So I'm noticing and I might be able to recollect that projection and be like, oh, that's my shit. That's mine. And yet a lot of times we go, especially when it comes to the projections that we cast all over our beloveds, our most intimate partners, it tends to be the stuff that we're not even grappling with yet. We all think we're self-aware, but studies show us that's not terribly verifiable.
We're all claiming
most
a
of us
level
are
of
struggling
self-awareness that we're reaching for, but not necessarily getting to. That's certainly true of me.
And some of us aren't even reaching.
Yep.
Would you say you were reaching for self-awareness in your 20s?
No. I would say I was not, beyond this like superficial level of, well, it's not what I would call self-awareness now. It was maybe self-familiarity.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I would absolutely have said that I was actively seeking constantly. but I also didn't know what I didn't know. And yeah, self familiarity. That's a, like, I was still trying to get to know
Yeah.
the really obvious parts,
Right.
the really obvious aspects, and I was still growing and developing at such a fast
Well,
rate.
that's a very important piece of, the adolescent to early adult time. A lot of growth. Hard to keep track of yourself.
But projection is, it's normal, but it can also interfere with our experience of our partners as sacred others, as truly their own autonomous beings.
And this is why I like the word projection. Because yeah, it's not a thing we're like taking conscious action about, which I find it. This is a little bit of a sidebar. I find it hard to talk about the the things that we do that are driven by our unconscious, because we
Mhm.
only have active verbs for things we do, that it makes it sound like I did this on purpose when I did it. I don't want to say it happened to me because I was the one who did it, but it wasn't what I was trying to do. It was just a thing I was doing.
Yeah. Well,
And
this is
in
where taking a psychological perspective on yourself and on others can make a little space for, wow, I can be doing something. I can even hold responsibility for that. And yet I may not have been consciously
Mhm.
attempting anything. And that can make a little space for grace too, grace with
Yeah.
myself and
Hmm.
grace with my beloveds, because we don't know what we don't know. And I mean, the very act we've talked before about shadow work, coming to know what you don't know, that is hard. I have to first grapple with, what am I even looking for? You're in the dark within the darkness. You're it's so challenging. Um can I read
And
a quote? Would that
oh yeah, let's hear
maybe
it.
ground us into a little bit of, I I like to approach the concept of projection, um, really based on this particular quote from Ion, Collected Works 9, Part 2. Um, Projections change the world into the replica of one's unknown face.
Hmm. That's a great quote.
Um, the There's another quote, and it's in Collected Works 12, that reads, so long as a content, so a piece of psychological content, so long as a content remains in the projected state, it is inaccessible. So this is where the trick
Interesting.
is, right? So while it's projected, I'm unconscious of it. So I have to actually recollect the projection in order to start working it as my stuff. So it can feel comfortable to experience good qualities and bad qualities out there, but I can't really do this thing we call integration, like to responsibly accept this into the wholeness of me while it's out there. I have to, and it's a process. So I would say it's not as clean cut as when it's projected and when it's not. There's a process that you're undergoing when you're actively collecting up this projected material, this you that you have cast out there onto them.
So when I go to work and I have a coworker that I work with fairly frequently, and I start to I start to notice a pattern of behaviors. Like I don't their work has a certain sloppiness to it, that
Mhm.
and it's disorganized, and they just don't communicate very well, and it really starts to get to me, and I really start to I appreciate the look on your
I'm
face
so
right now.
sorry.
It's
It's so
hard not to
hard.
smile, right?
It's so
They're sloppy and disorganized and poor communicator and poor planning, and I'm just getting like I can't. I have such a hard time working with this person. I get so mad, so frustrated, and until as long as I leave that out there as like that's their qualities and I don't like them, then I what you just said. It's those noticing those qualities of me. It's inaccessible to me until I realize that the reason it gets me so worked up is because those are all qualities I have in my work. And
Yeah.
until I do that, yeah, there's nothing to
Well,
do.
because they're
That's
so
just
beautifully housed out there. I
right.
don't need to take them in. And here's the trick. I think most mature adults believe that they've got a handle on this the second they can say it, right? So it would be really easy. I could go back. I could press the rewind button on your life about 12 years, and I could imagine a version of you who's
Please don't.
like who says something like, "It's okay. We were still having sex then.
That's true.
It's not the end of the world."
It's not the end of
Um,
the world.
I could hit that rewind button, go back to then, and I could imagine a version of you who's like, "Right, right, right. If it bothers me out there, it's part of me too." Like, you can say that.
Oh
It is
yeah.
another thing altogether to really start to grapple with it. But there is a line. You're drawing something really important to the forefront. The beginning stage of projection. You see this quality in the other and you believe it is entirely true. You believe your judgment, your discernment is completely true. And you see it out there. And you might have the capacity to say the purportedly mature thing of like, yeah, 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 I know. If it's out there, it's bugging me about me, sure. But you don't really believe it, right? That's an intellectualization. It's an end run around the actual work.
Yeah, and what it was for me, I
I could
mean,
do that. I could say that about myself too. This is not a you thing.
this is an us thing. This is a
Yep.
people thing. And one piece of that for me is when I say it, I feel like I'm doing something about it.
Yeah. It
But
feels like you're taking
yeah,
action.
I feel like I'm taking action. And I guess, technically I am. I am stating the thing. And that's not nothing.
It's not nothing,
But
but
it's
if it's an intellectualization,
yeah.
and that is the only thing you do, I think it's actually just as bad, if not worse. Because what you're doing is presenting to others, especially possibly your therapeutic helpers, your people who are maybe trying to help you become more self-aware. You may be performing for them
Oh,
an act of
yeah.
self-awareness without actually allowing it to really enter,
Yeah.
like
Performance
really
self
be
awareness, that's definitely a piece of that 12-year-old me that you were just describing. So, yeah. So this is a thing we do.
not your 12-year-old you, 12 years
12.
ago you.
Oh, did I say 12-year-old? I meant
I
to
was
say
not
12
having
years
sex with
ago.
your 12 years
No,
old you.
you were not.
Also, yeah,
Yeah,
that's barely even possible.
yeah, you would too.
I did not exist. So can't I can't stress strongly enough that what we disown about ourselves is what we project. What we disown about ourselves. That's not all bad stuff.
Right.
So
So
you
those
just named a bunch of things: disorganization, lack of communication, a certain sloppiness.
things that I judge in myself as
Those aren't things
negative.
that you're excited about seeing in anyone, right?
No,
You wouldn't qualify those as positive.
no, I wouldn't.
What are some qualities that you would qualify as positive?
Um, creativity, joyfulness, yeah, playfulness, intelligence, quickness, memory,
Okay.
good memory.
Are those all qualities that you can find within yourself and own and really and feel like you have fully acknowledged and owned them as your strengths?
No.
So that's a great example of what it is to have the potential to project golden shadow
Mhm.
material all over someone else, and that's the material of falling in love. We don't fall in love because we
Right.
make shitty projections all over each other. And
Yeah.
I'm like, ew, you're sloppy and disorganized. And I don't, ew. No. Instead, um, ah, what did you think about me when you fell in love with me?
Oh, you're brilliant
Well,
and
thanks.
um you're creative and you're playful. Like basically that was the list of things that I just said. And the memory thing that was a really interesting projection. Which I don't think we have time to unpack all of that here. Um, but
But you had these qualities that you
I have these
wanted.
qualities that I wanted, and I wanted to be near them, right? I
And
wanted to feel them from you.
the really interesting thing about a projection is we can have disowned these things. that are true about us
Hmm.
that we cannot, that we somehow still grapple with, that are also positive. And that, when I try to explain this to people, most people can see it when other people do it, but it's hard
Yeah.
to really be with, like, oh, I value, let's say I value intelligence or beauty or playfulness, and whatever it is, I
I
value
love how
this.
you make stuff. You're not just generally creative, you will make physical things in the world.
I do. It's
And
true. And that's a true thing. So you
that is
spotted
a
something that
true
is
thing
a
about you.
true demonstrable thing
Yeah.
that exists in me. And because a great projection screen has the quality, they do have the quality.
It lines up.
And but you have a wound around creativity. You have a
Yep.
wound around making things,
Yep.
right?
So I couldn't imagine, like, I could imagine in this vague theoretical sense that, oh, well, I would love to do that. Oh, well. And then I wouldn't do anything. I'm still struggling with that. But
So
you
would you say
would.
that you had stories, narratives, an internalized conception of who you were as not creative, as not a maker, while also valuing it? It was like a push-pull within
It
you?
was it was a push pull. I wanted to be, but like the core of that wanting was the acknowledgement that I wasn't a maker. I
Mm.
wanted to be one. Can I want to be one? I mean, I can appreciate
It's
being
such an
one, but I
interesting
can't want to be one if I already am one.
it's such an interesting thing, because you, like, also, you could at any moment stop expending all that energy wanting and just literally
And
pick
just
something up and do it.
Mhm.
Um, that first step, when we want to recollect a projection, when we've done that unconscious move of, like, oh, here's my stuff and it's out there. At first, it's out there. We're convinced it's true about the other, and we do not see it as, this doesn't feel like a psychological move. This just feels like the way things are. The second the second phase is a dawning awareness. I love that, like, a dawning awareness, this, like, faint awareness that there's a difference between this thing that you imagine is true and the actual truth.
Hmm. Hmm.
And um, I remember a time when you were sorting that, and I could sort of see you sorting it because you'd be taking actions, and so you would copy some of the things I would do. You'd be like, you'd sit down next to me to watercolor paint,
Yeah.
and it was like you were aware of something being off, it was both true that I was a maker, a doer, I was creative, and that you also have creative energy. But there was like a mismatch. And the reason I remember it being so difficult is you were still struggling deeply to embrace your form, your face of creativity, the way you embody creativity.
Hmm.
So you would instead compare your work to mine.
Yep.
Um, and I'm a more skilled painter than you are. And so you would compare, and you would reinforce them. You would choose these activities that you were less skilled at. And I would watch you sort of like make the comparison and then demote yourself again. And then you could revert to that earlier stage of, like, no, it's just true. You're the creative one. You're the maker. You're that. I'm not. So it's actually a comforting thing. We could see the same thing happen. I see it all the time in people comparing themselves, comparing their intellect, comparing their physical beauty, their capacity to, like, love boldly and in multiplicity, or to attract dates, or, like, there's this, we can project these qualities onto our beloveds and then disown from them because we inhabit them differently, and just keep
Yeah.
reinforcing that
Hmm.
story.
Yep.
And the projection lets us dig deeper and deeper into a spot where I'm not happy about this, but it is familiar, and
Yeah.
it does keep things set up to be the way they are.
And
Nothing
there's
has to change.
Yep, nothing has to change, and for me anyway, there's a sense of, "See, I was right." Like, it's a not self-fulfilling, but it's proof. If I leave it with you and I step toward it, I try to, embody this quality that I see in you that I I greatly admire, and I'm like, "All right, so maybe that is in me. Maybe it is a golden shadow. Let me reach for it." Well, at that point, now I'm feeling, again, this is all happening unconscious, but there's a back pressure. Like, if I get this right, I will have to deal with the parts of me who have defined myself as not having this. That is really uncomfortable. So on the one hand, there's the comfort of, well, I'm used to this. And on the other, like, and then if I try to change, not only do I lose that comfort, I add the discomfort of having been wrong about myself.
Yeah. This is
That's
why
a powerful combination.
this is really amazing psychological work. And we get to do it in the context of our closest relationships. And that's why it is so relevant for playing with fire. So, playing
Right.
with fire is about non monogamy. It's true. And sometimes we're talking about that in a very direct sense. And sometimes we're talking about the opportunity right in front of you in all of your close relationships, monogamous or non-monogamous, friendships, platonic, sexual, doesn't matter. In all of your close relationships, the opportunity is there for you to do this thing, this move of unconscious projection of your psychological material, and to create the create that replica of one's unknown face
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
And when we do that in intimate relationships, sometimes we are lucky enough to be partnered with someone who's like, I see you.
Hmm.
I see you. Um, nah, I'm going to reject that. Maybe I'm going to reject your projection because it's not true about me, or it's not a very important part of me. It's not a very big part. You've taken a little kernel of something that's true and you've blown it up to be this big thing. And now I'm carrying the burden of like the concept of intelligence or the concept of creativity. And I'm supposed to inhabit that and like be that
Right.
God for
That's
you.
a lot
Thanks. But
to hold.
that's a lot. I don't know whether I want to be that archetypal figure for you.
Hmm.
So I might reject it for that reason, but I might also reject it because I say, nah, nah, fam, no thanks. You also are creative. You also are a maker and you inhabit it differently. And one of the ways you inhabit it right now is like a little boy. And I remember you would
Yep.
ask me to teach you things that I was very, very good at, things that came, things
Yep.
that I was very, very good at that I also came to very, very easily. I taught myself to knit one day and then knit a sweater literally the same day. I and then you asked me many years later, you're like, teach me how to knit, and I did. And in doing so, one of the things that happened is I reached over and I took the knitting needles out of your hand one day and said, "Oh, I'm going to fix that," and you lost your damn
Yep.
mind because I woke up a child part of you
Yep.
who was not able to deal with I woke up a parental complex.
Yep.
I woke up this projection of like, see, you don't believe that I'm creative and now I'm all tangled up in my shit.
Yep.
And all that happened. Meanwhile, I'm thinking I'm just ripping back a stitch for you and getting your yarn on the right side of the
Just
needles.
trying to keep things moving, trying to help.
And I think
Yep.
I'm working with an adult.
Yeah.
I think this is my 50-year-old partner next to me. I'm just good. Oh, but in that moment you
Nope.
weren't. In that
I
moment
was
you were 7,
no, I
9.
was a 9-year-old boy whose father had just taken away the wooden sword he was making and finished making it. Just finished it. So, I mean, and so there was some very, valid feelings, of course, in that. But it's helpful to remember that, time has passed. You're not him. I have different level of agency. I have, it
And
opens
that
up a world of
wounding,
psychological work to do around that.
yeah, so the wound happened, like the injury happened,
Yeah.
but
And I
the
think
wound gets to heal.
it's fair to say too that I wasn't aware of that in that moment. Like we had a conversation about it, and I didn't know that's where it came from. It took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
But there it was. There was
I think
the
it took
beginning thread
I
pulling
think
it
it
out.
took quite a few times of me
Yeah.
taking things out of your hands before
Hmm.
you noticed, like, "Oh, that's a trigger for me." And it reminds me of something that then puts me back in time. I have a
Yep.
full-blown I'm back in time, and now not only can I not withdraw this projection of this, big Hephaestus energy, this like creative force in the world that you have cast onto me, that I inhabit pretty well in the world. I can make, I don't know, ask me to make something, I'll make it. It's fine. But you you're also now dealing with childhood wounds and your father complex because you were never able to interact with your father as an adult. You didn't get to do that. So now I've got this no, we've got so many layers. It's this beautiful, it's a parfait of
Oh
psychological
yeah.
material.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what's under so many instances of
Yep.
psychological projection, especially in our closest, most trusting partnerships. Like
And
the
this
deeper the trust, the
and this is
more
why, yeah,
opportunity.
it is with that deep trust relationship. This goes back to what I said at the beginning. This is important stuff. Like projections, they are immensely valuable when you can notice them and work with them. I mean, they're just annoying generally if you just have them, but once you start working with them, ooh, the work's sitting right there. It's really
And so some of us
really effective.
have the opportunity. So you and I have made an agreement to name them when we see them.
Yeah.
And I remember noticing this and because of the work that I was doing in my studies, noticing it and being like, I don't think this is my stuff. I think this is your stuff. And I remember trying to return the projection to you, like, here, that's yours, not mine. And that felt like pain to you. You felt rejected. You felt like there was more injury, and I wasn't fully recognizing at that point just how delicate a moment of love we were in, right? Around this very simple seeming experience. But there was an opportunity for me to interact with you and take into my full awareness, like, wow, yeah, I might have a projection I want to reject, or I might actually not even need to worry about that. Like, okay, fine, project that onto me. Maybe I want to be present to the father complex you're working on there. Maybe I want to be present to the fact that you're working to withdraw, to recollect and pull this stuff together, but you're not able to do it. Or maybe I get really pissed.
Right,
Maybe it
because
activates something in
mhm,
me. And now I go into, maybe I feel like
right,
you have asked me for help. You have placed me, here's where my projection would come up. Here's an answering projection that could happen at the same time. You put me in a position to need to mother you. And there's the language that would play out in my head. You made me take up this role of mother slash teacher. I have to do this. And now you're mad at me?
right,
And now we're into my territory. I evoke the mother in a lot of people, which makes a lot of sense. I have 7 kids, for one thing. But I've evoked mother energy since I was a child, an actual, literal little child. Um, and that part of my work, my opportunity is to recognize you did not make me, but I'm experiencing now this identification with I have to mother, I have to care, I have to nurture, I have to treat your child, I have to act as your savior in this moment. And I can get all caught in my stuff. And this is about working with my complexes. So this goes deeper than just like flat projections and into really mm, yeah, just really profound psychological complexes that have enormous emotional weight, gravity. They have gravity. They pull lots of material, lots of our psychological material
Yeah.
in,
So it,
and we can toss this energy back and
right. Me
forth.
projecting on you can energize one of your complexes, and that interaction with me can then cause me to maybe double down on my projection, or maybe a complex energizes it even more. And pretty soon we're like a laser with these two mirrors facing each other, and the energy just keeps ramping up in there.
That does not sound like a good idea. What happens when that does
Yeah,
not seem good?
that's how you make a laser. That's how
Like,
you get all your light the
but
same color.
it sounds kind of like a laser like Jack's eyes in The Incredibles. It doesn't
Yes,
sound safe.
exactly. Right.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't
You
sound
could
safe.
eventually start cutting metal with it. Yeah.
Okay, I don't wanna do that because 'cause I'm experiencing a loving, caring relationship with you.
Right. So,
So, instead, I have to do the steps. I have to actually deal with my projections. I have to move from this unconscious state of, "Oh, the projection is just happening," to, "No, I'm going to actively bring awareness to this, and I'm gonna start noticing," for me, habits,
mhm,
habitual reactions to familiar situations. That
mhm,
to me is that's that third phase of, like, now I can start to own what is mine here. I can't do your work in it. If you are projecting something onto me, I can I can put up a psychological emotional boundary around that, or I can make some boundaries around certain topics. I mean, I can remember a point where I was like, I'm not going to teach you how to do any more
right.
crafts,
Yep.
art right now because we just keep getting caught in the same cycle. So I'm going to encourage you to go do that on your own. Go take up your own stuff. We had the same thing happen around archery because you thought you were better at it than me, then I surpassed you out of the gates, and we got caught in that same cycle, and the solution was simply to separate our practices
Yep.
so that we could not get caught in the cycle.
Yeah. And to say that you surpassed me isn't quite right. I was wrong. You were better than me the whole time. Yeah.
I I don't think everybody um has an experience this that I'm not sure that everybody will have an experience just like this, but that one was so simple to me.
Yeah.
We could just decide to do something different. So when one of us was all complex, all caught in projections and storytelling, a narrative that was not helpful, there are some situations where we can just decide, hey, we're going to do this separately because we each have our own stuff. But there was a downside to that because when we separated, when we broke that habit of going out and doing archery together, um, you stopped shooting.
Mhm.
And then eventually I did. So there was a downside to that. And this is where I think, projection it's also powerful. And getting caught in each other's complexes is powerful. And even though it can feel icky at times, it can also keep us in our life, right?
Yeah.
It is life force. We're not actually trying to get rid of our complexes. Our complexes are just our psychological stuff. But I want to bring awareness to it. And yeah, I would say I would even put that into the regret category. I regret having not stayed in it. We chose to just break the habit, and I regret not having stayed in it and just stayed with the discomfort that we were each feeling from having this difference,
All right. And
um, and just bearing it for a little while longer.
yeah,
There was a lot of other stuff going on.
that's what I was going to say. Like you decide, you prioritize, you decide what's worth it in the moment. And so, okay.
But it
Right.
comes up around another place I see it happen a lot for people in their closest relationships is around dating. Dating is often much easier for one person. If you have an established couple who's opening up, dating is often easier for one than the other. For lots of reasons. There could be a million reasons. Some of them are about charisma, some of them are about conventional attractiveness or like the market around you, like
Yeah. The
who's
who's in
looking
the
for what
dating pool right
around you.
there. Yeah.
Also your effort, the effort that you put
Hmm.
into like just connecting, going out. And I see this show up as, yeah, a whole bunch of just it's just sitting there. It's just psychological material just sitting there. And I see a lot of people miss the fact that that's not bad news. That discomfort, all the stuff it's going to bring up, is an opportunity. We go to therapy, right? Usually to fix stuff, like to fix problems. This is depth psychological work. We're not fixing anything. Instead, we're getting access to the material to actually do our individuating, to do our stuff. So by experiencing, for instance, you have an easier time getting picked by people, but I have an easier time just putting myself the hell out there. Just constantly putting myself in the face of rejection over and over again. So we have very different experiences of dating. And it's so easy for each of us to get caught in the projection of what I'm not and what you
Yeah,
have,
right. Yep.
and to make that personal, to
And
make
to
it
make it
seem like
personal
it's,
as the to assign meaning to it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
When we could also choose to assign meaning to, oh, that this is my work, reclaiming this. So the fourth and fifth phases of recollecting projections are reclaiming it, sorting out, like, what of this is mine? What in here is
Mhm.
mine? What in creativity is mine? What in attractiveness is mine? What qualities do I have? What do I bring to this? How can I embody this characteristic? Or in a negative projection, what if this narcissism is mine? How am I self-obsessed? How am I neglecting to see the other and to attend to our autonomy? There's a million ways. That sorting out is like we get an opportunity to do it every time the projection comes up. So we have lots of opportunities, but we have to just keep with the work. And
And
the fifth,
whether we judge these qualities to be positive or negative, either way, there are opportunities to understand yourself better.
and from there, theoretically, to integrate, right? To integrate this into myself. And I like Marie-Louise von France has a really simple definition of integration that I like. The responsible acceptance of this quality, this trait, into the total of my personality. The responsible acceptance of this quality into me, what I know to be me. And I like the word responsible in there
Oh yeah.
because if I have a quality like creativity, and I'm like, I'm going to accept creativity. Okay. And so let's say, can you do that work? And you're like, I'm going to enthusiastically embrace this. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to stop projecting it onto others and instead see it out there as inspiration and also witness it within myself. I'm going to acknowledge it and honor it. That all sounds fun, right?
That sounds fun.
And you can do. I saw you do it today. You played the piano. I watched you play piano. You were improvising. You were doing a completely fun, playful. Like you were embodying so many of the qualities that you often project onto me. And I don't play the piano. You were doing it in your own way. You were making it yours. I wouldn't say that was easy. By looking at how you've done that, I wouldn't say it was easy as in it doesn't just come and happen naturally to you,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but it probably felt good, right?
It did. Yeah, because it's a thing that I have s- I value. Though that's a collection of things that I valued, so I did them. It's like
Yeah.
this feels like a good thing to do, and I
And then
did
it
it.
literally feels good in
Mhm.
your embodied
In my
experience,
embodied
right?
experience, yeah.
What about something like self-centeredness?
Yeah, that's less fun.
So the responsible acceptance of the quality of self-centeredness or a narcissisticness of myself, right? Like to accept that into the total of me, to
Yeah,
take responsibility for it without like letting it molder and become this
yeah,
excuse for me being an asshole,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm self-centered. I'm a narcissist, so I just get to be. Or to let's take a really obvious one. Violence. I'm violent. I'm cruel. Fine. Fine. I'll accept it. I'll accept that into my totality. The responsible acceptance. That's the integration, the responsible
Yep.
acceptance of cruelty, of violence into the totality of me is to take seriously my capacity for it and to understand that it has its role. I mean, my ability to be cruel is what has allowed me to draw boundaries with my children as they grow and stop over functioning and allow them to be encouraged to go live their own lives and row their own boats. And it's hard, right? There's a certain cruelty that I have to access within myself to say, I'm not going to fix that for you,
Which is,
but I'll support you while you, like, I'll stand here. I will support you. I will
Yep.
love you, but you're going to fix this. But it doesn't mean that I get to be an asshole and just act violently
Yeah.
or cruelly.
I am
and
cruel. Oh, well, that's not responsible. Yeah.
It's not. And that right there, that last bit, yeah, I'm not going to wrap up without addressing this, because that identification with the shadow, we're seeing it all over the place right now.
Yes, we are.
Okay, we always have throughout all humanity. Identification with the most evil qualities of life, right, allows us to imagine that somehow it's all right for us to embody these qualities against the sacred other. I mean, I grew up in a family that, yeah, there was this projective identification. They identified with this nastiness, this cruelty, this sarcasm, cutting down. And every one of those people is a loving, caring, beautiful soul. But I witnessed and felt all around me how the only way to survive was to identify as the devil, right? To identify with this darkness, this evil, this sarcastic asshole, right? Let's make it simple. This sarcastic asshole who will say the rude thing rather than just fucking be nice.
And so that is an example of,
And then wear that as a badge.
Right. So that's not responsible acceptance. That is it's an anti-relational acceptance. I will accept this as myself, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what my experience of my father was so tied up to that, because he struggled so much to accept himself. And now I see him. I see him having struggled to accept the cruelty that he felt within, and to reconcile it with the softness that he felt within him.
Yeah.
He was a deeply sensitive soul who protected that with a hard candy coating of
sarcasm and
sarcastic asshole,
vitriol.
Yeah. And it left us in a place of, instead of having a loving, caring relationship, having one that had to be primarily made of boundaries that would then get violated, and then a pattern of projection and projective identification would play out. Our complexes would dance with each other, and then finally new boundaries would have to get set. And
that is a scenario that is really, really hard in a relationship that you're trying to engage in from a loving standpoint.
And so common. So common, because, that phrase, we hurt the people we love the most. I mean, for one thing, we have the access, right? Those are the people we have access to hurt, generally speaking.
We have the access. We have the knowledge.
We have the knowledge. We understand where their soft spots are. And in some cases, in the parent-child relationship, we often put those soft spots there, or even some of sibling partnerships. But when I'm in my partnership with you, you have that knowledge as well. You have the knowledge. You know how to access some of that same stuff. You could engage with me in that same way. And I watch you over and over and over again choose not to take the easy road. The easy road would be the one that says, yeah, you think I'm an asshole, so you know what? I'll just be it.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll just lean in. Because, I mean, you had a reputation for being...
It was not unearned.
Pedantic,
Yep.
distant, isolating, judgmental jerk.
Judgmental and, yeah.
And I see you every day now choose to release that, at least with me, with our children. But I have also seen you struggle with it.
Mhm.
Struggle with it in other relationships, struggle with it at work, and just struggle with the like, oh, but that's the it's a path of less resistance. It's so well practiced to just be in the projection move,
Yep.
to
And,
not do the harder work.
an interesting thing about projective identification of, accepting the projection that's put on you is, mm, it doesn't require anybody to actually be projecting on you. You just have to imagine that it is,
Right, and
and
sometimes
here you are.
the projection can come from the culture at large.
Come from the culture. Yeah.
Like, so anything that you identify with can just be out there in the ethos,
Yeah.
and yeah, we just take it on, and we can wear these shadow qualities as if they are the totality of us. And we always have the option to instead face the mirror
Yeah.
and actually look at it. And that process, right? That the experience of unpacking that, of what in Jungian psychology is usually referred to as recollecting the projections. It's just ongoing. And I appreciate so much that you will let yourself be exposed here, like in our conversations. And I just want
Yeah.
to recognize that
Thanks. You
you could,
too,
but
though.
you could point just as much at me, and I, because my command of the concept is strong. I You often are in the position of being the example, the exemplar, and I just want to say it's such a gift to watch you own it without identifying, without falling into projective identification and then sinking down into, ooh, this is, I'm bad, or I'm bad at this, I'm bad at relating, and instead bring this back into a loving recognition of, we're witnessing each other's growth,
Yeah.
and we're performing this conversation, we're having this conversation recorded because I see this in literally every single relationship I have ever worked with. This is just normal behavior. And if you're not doing this, you're just unconscious that it's happening. It's happening. Um, there's a lot of work to do in this realm, but I think this is a good place to finish and say that if this is coming up for you, I would go back and I would actually re-listen to this as you grow, as you do your deeper work. This is an episode to come back to and digest again.
Yep. Yeah. This is definitely a spiral path. Come around and around.
Yeah, and every time you'll be changed, your partners will be changed, your surroundings will be changed.
Yep.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
We talk to you all the time. It is absolutely imperative to me that we get to hear from you as well.
Yes, please.
So, we'd love to invite you to join us. Join Ken and I. We're holding monthly Ask Me Anythings. You can show up, bring your questions from podcast episodes, from your relationships, bring questions about non monogamy, about individuation, about relationship skills. We would love to share space with you. We're hosting these AMAs free of charge for our podcast listeners. You are the Playing with Fire community, and it matters a ton to us that we connect with you directly. So
Oh,
go,
I would so love to hear your questions and it'd be so awesome.
yeah. Go to joliehamilton.com/AMA and you'll find a way to sign up real quick and get an invitation to join us in a small group where we're going to get together and talk about all things non monogamy, individuation, and relationships.